There's an analogy that I like to use. Usually when we talk about blockchains, we talk about them as networks. And I think it's not a very good metaphor to use because it makes people think about networks like Facebook or something, or Google or the internet, which are these networks that are infinitely scalable, or at least that we figured out how to scale pretty arbitrarily large. And blockchains aren't like that, right? Blockchains are more physically constrained. And I think it's better to think about blockchains as being like cities. So if you imagine Ethereum is like the capital city of everything in crypto, right? Just like New York City. It's this huge financial center, but the problem with Ethereum is it becomes super expensive, right? Like, there's crazy congestion all the time. It's really tough to get an apartment there. Everything's super
San
expensive.
Francisco.
All the richest people live there. It's like super ballin'. It's super wealthy, and like the biggest banks in the world, they'll all set up shop in New York City. But for most, everyday Joes like you and me, like we're not necessarily going to want to live in Manhattan, right? So where do we go? How do we scale things? How do we scale things past Manhattan? And I feel if you look at other layer ones, L2s, and interoperability solutions, they're all different answers to this question of how do you scale Manhattan, right? So if you look at interoperability solutions, right, like Polkadot or Cosmos, what they say is like, okay, how about this? How about we create like a big network of lots of little mini cities and we'll connect them up with this big highway system, right? And so you could create a little city and have like some little banking thing over in that little tiny city. You can have a little mining town over here and there's like a highway system that connects you to that. That's the vision of something like Cosmos or Polkadot, right? Now, if you look at another layer one basically says like, look, how about we create like another dope ass city like Chicago? And it'll be totally separate. It'll have its own financial centers. It'll have its own people. It'll have its own railways, and everything will be kind of recreated in this separate city. And we're just going to create a bridge back to the original city, and so people can go to Chicago or they can go to New York or Boston and New York. Right? You just take the train, and it doesn't take you that long to get there. But like it's totally separate. It has its own infrastructure, own unique identity, right? And it's pretty clear that like that is working right now. That's what you're seeing on Polygon. It's what you're seeing on Avalanche, is that you have your own AMM, you have your own DeFi protocol, you have your own lending platform. Like all these things are being recreated, but separately. So it's like you have your own little ecosystem that's similar to what they have in Manhattan, but it's cheaper, it's more scalable, whatever. The third approach is layer twos. And a layer two, I describe as like, instead of trying to build horizontally, you build vertically, right? And you say, okay, instead of like trying to go build a separate city, instead, we are going to invest in skyscraper technology. And we're going to build bigger and bigger skyscrapers in Manhattan to scale Manhattan, which you can do that. That totally works. And we're figuring out the technology in order to build these skyscrapers. It doesn't scale you infinitely, right? And there are limitations. Like, look, you build taller and taller skyscrapers, like the streets are still really congested. Like it's still really hard for people to move into the ultimate city. Like moving between the skyscrapers is still really hard, right? Like there's only so much you can do by building more and more skyscrapers in Manhattan. It does help at the margin, but it's sort of an and, not an or, the way that I see it. Layer twos absolutely will be important, and they will exist, and they'll find ways to make them more verticalized within different ecosystems, but you still need to scale the base chains. It is not enough to say there's going to be 50 different rollups on Ethereum, and also because of just the nature of rollups, they do have kind of a network effect, right? There will probably be a lot of rollups, but there'll probably be a lot of rollups on many different chains as well, and there'll be one component of the way that scaling is going to happen.
Shard 42
I got some questions which are yeah, it is going to be real. I got some questions, but it's like lowbrow. And maybe
therefore perfectly appropriate.
Okay,
tailored,
perfect.
Yeah,
lay it on me.
Tailored to our show more than tailored to your thesis. But I like the idea that layer one blockchains are cities, and you said Ethereum is New York. So I'm just going to give you some layer one blockchains, and you got to tell me what city it is.
Oh, perfect.
Okay,
I told you it was lowbrow. Look, yeah, it's up only TV. It's not like fucking Bankless or something. Bankless, they like research and do everything. We're like, all right, what city is this? All right, what city is Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is Atlantis.
Wow.
Atlantis. All right.
Yeah.
Fictional.
Or Rome.
Underwater.
Rome.
Shit.
Rome.
I should have gone with underwater. I should have.
Rome. I take it back. It's Rome.
It's Rome. Oh man.
Bitcoin's Rome. Bitcoin's Rome.
All right.
So they're
What
like Roman
is-
coins. That's there.
There you go.
Yeah, fine. I'm annoyed with myself that I didn't say underwater. I said fictional
He
first.
had the perfect joke, and he had the second best joke instead.
What is
By the way, Atlantis is probably real. Probably real. Not actually underwater, but probably real.
Yeah, but is Aquaman real?
That's a good question. That's a
What
little
is
too highbrow for me.
what is Solana?
What is Solana? That's a really good question. I think Solana could be Singapore or it could be Brasilia.
All right. What is EOS?
What is EOS? EOS might be Atlantis.
What are those? What are those?
I don't
What
know,
are
I
those
don't know.
Chinese like empty cities, like the shadow cities?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
like-
Oh yeah,
It's like a ghost city.
Yeah.
It's like a ghost city.
All right. What is Cardano?
Cardano, oof. What is Cardano? Cardano is like, I feel like Cardano is like, it's like the Beijing Olympics, like Beijing during the Olympics, right? Where like they sort of turn this like Potemkin village all of a sudden, where like suddenly the air is clean, and now suddenly the moment you look, it's like this amazing thing, but when you look away, it's
that's
like
so
a
brutal.
bunch of poor people in tatters. And, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I feel
They
like
like
Cardano is.
stood up the city just for the Olympics, and then it
Exactly, just so that people could see how beautiful it is, and then the moment you look away, it's like, oh, no,
my
it's
gosh,
not
that's
really
so
like
brutal.
that.
What about Litecoin?
Litecoin, Litecoin, I feel like is like Detroit or something.
Oh man.
What about Monero?
Monero, oof. I would say Switzerland, but Switzerland now has new connotations, right?
Yeah.
Maybe like Hong Kong or something. I don't know.
I like that.
All right, last
Yeah,
one.
or Monaco.
Zcash.
Monaco.
There you go.
Monero's
Monaco, yeah.
Monero's Monaco.
Fair enough. And Zcash, last one.
Zcash is like Transylvania.
Is that a real place?
Yeah, that's a real place.
It's
right?
not just like a Disney movie or something.
No, Transylvania is like a real place where they place a lot of the vampires, like where they came from. But no, it's a real place.
A place in Romania. Oh yeah, they got like these yeah.